Good evening to you, Damien. How are things in Runcorn and Helsby this evening?
Not too bad, to be honest. I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with my MP currently, actually. She's making a lot of the right noises in Parliament. Sarah Poachin, the Reform UK MP. She kicked off the argument regarding banning the niqab or the hijab in the UK, which I think is spot on. And she's also making a lot of noise about houses of multiple occupancy where they're just basically dumping illegals into council estates all over the UK. And I'm in a red wall seat. In red wall seats, Labour MPs tend to only go with the party line. If you bring any of these issues up to a Labour MP, they likely don't even respond to it if you send them an email or a letter. So it's good that I've actually got somebody speaking out about these issues, and it shows people that vote Labour in the north of England that another way is possible.
Mhm.
So you can have critiques of reform. That's fair. That's perfectly valid. I'm just happy I've got somebody speaking out about the things that I actually care about currently, which I'm sure it would be a refresh for people in Scotland as well if you got people speaking about these types of things.
Oh, it would be amazing, and that's, as you say, that's what helps to. It just changes the tone, as it were. You suddenly see, oh, a voice that speaks for me, and we don't really have that so much in Scotland, or at least voices that will go to places that the current voices don't want to talk about. And so there is that hope for next year, with the Scottish elections coming up on the 7th of May 2026, that a new cohort of people will get in and will move the conversation our way. So that's definitely to be hoped for. Now, one or two people just welcoming you in there. Christopher says you're very lucky to have Sarah Potion representing you. Absolutely.
She seems to be doing well so far. As I say, nothing's perfect, but it's a marked improvement against an MP that's likely to punch you in the face if you ask them for something or help about a local bridge. So
Yes.
any MP that doesn't punch you when you question them in the streets is a plus.
Yes, because that's, of course, how you're not even just joking there. That is literally how the last Labour MP went out as a consequence of um, lamping one of his constituents, which
It's
wasn't very MP-ish behaviour, I have to say.
it's not, but it's nice that the establishment look after their own. He got a suspended sentence while we get people locked up for tweets for 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, isn't
S-
that
I
isn't
mean,
that the truth?
I mean, it's a bit strange, isn't it? The actual damage, actual harm to somebody, you get a suspended sentence, but something that could be interpreted as potentially causing harm, well, the establishment doesn't like that, and you get 2.5 years in prison.
It is a big worry, actually, not only those ridiculous sentences, but there was, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's just so terrible. But there's a young lad got killed in London, and his murderer got 6 years. This was just a few days ago. 6 years for taking somebody's life in that way. That's just unacceptable. I mean,
It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It's a disgrace, and it makes you think that you're in a two-tier society. So you can get the Attorney General for England and Wales, Lord Hermer, saying that it's monstrous or it's disgusting to imply that you've got a two-tiered society. But when you see sentences like this, there's no other conclusion you can draw.
no, no, no. Other than there's something wrong with the actual judge, who has got some sort of weird agenda,
Either that or
which
they're bought and paid for by the establishment, meaning they know what side the bread is buttered. They're in the Overton window, they're in the nice liberal consensus for the elites, and they think, right, we're not going to rock the boat, we're just going to do what the instructed us to do.
Mhm,
It's like
mhm.
after the Southport riots last year when Keir Starmer went on TV and he was making these edicts declaring all the people that were rioting, which the police have later dismissed and said it wasn't riots, it was civil disobedience, and it was basically protests. So the actual constabulary review of that later down the line, they actually turned around and said, "Oh, hang on, it wasn't actually a riot." And that's the first thing. And the second thing is we have the Prime Minister going out and declaring people guilty as criminals before people had even been arrested, and that was backed by the Home Office. there was no due process.
Mhm,
Innocent until proven guilty. What business has the Prime Minister got going on TV declaring people guilty before a trial?
absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting there that you've raised the matter of rioting versus protesting, and this was brought home to me when I read this very short article, which I'll just read in a second. But if you listen to the BBC, they will sometimes they'll use riot if it's something they really don't like, and if they're sympathetic, they'll use the word protest.
But mostly peaceful protest, mostly peaceful.
Yeah, yeah. This is Michael Deacon writing in the Daily Telegraph on the 14th of June. And he's talking about how in such outlets, media outlets, the violence, and he's talking about the violence in Ballymena recently, is always described as rioting, yet the violence in Los Angeles is always described as protests. You may have wondered why this is. After all, both Ballymena and Los Angeles have seen cars set on fire, missiles thrown, and police officers injured. These are all very bad things. So why don't the news outlets refer to both as rioting? The answer is simple. The violence in Ballymena is being perpetrated by people who are against mass immigration. The violence in Los Angeles, in contrast, is being perpetrated by people who are in favor not only of mass immigration, but of illegal immigration, and just as importantly, hate Donald Trump. Therefore, their actions must be made to sound understandable and legitimate.
Well, yeah, if you don't like the Donald and you don't like his ICE raids where he's removing the illegals by force, then yeah, you've got to be made out to be the big bad. You've got to be made out to be sympathetic, rather, if you're against the Donald. I mean, I think it's quite remarkable that down in Florida they've managed to make a detention center for so-called illegals and refugees, and they managed to do that in a week. Now, if the Americans can do something like that in a week, it's surprising that the British can't do something similar, or is it we can? It's just they don't want to.
It's the latter, isn't it? Yes, we can. Remember during back in 2020, they set up suddenly all these hospitals,
The
as they
Nightingale
called them.
hospitals for COVID that were never used, they were just basically optics, so it looks like they're doing something.
Yes, I was trying to avoid using the C word so that YouTube doesn't put a banner at the bottom with a link to the truth about the C word.
Oh yeah,
But yes.
We'll just call it the cough.
Yes,
cough.
yes. Now, changing the subject here, Oksana's got a good question for you. Hi, Damien. What do you think of the new party being set up by Ben Habib? Now, for
Okay.
people who don't know, yesterday he set up this thing called Advance UK, which is it's not registered with the Electoral Commission yet. So I don't know quite why he's calling it a party.
I'll tell you why. I've done a bit of
What
research
do you
on
think of
this.
it? Yeah.
Okay, so he's put out a video and he said he's only going to register it with the Electoral Commission once it reaches 30k subscribers or members.
Oh, right. I didn't know
And
that.
he's doing it on a discounted rate of a tenner for the first 30k. And the reason why he's doing it that way, I think it is similar to Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain. The very important thing is that we can't allow Reform UK to be complacent. We can't afford Reform UK to think, oh, they can just get away with being Tories 2.0. Because the way I understand it, or the way I think of it, is that Reform UK was an answer to the fact that the Conservatives are no longer conservative. They're basically Liberal Democrats that like to get elected, so they put a Tory stamp on the tin. That's why when David Cameron took over the Tories in 2005, he changed the policy and allowed Liberals into the party. And as such, the rump of the MPs in Parliament that the Tories have still got are all Liberal Democrats, basically. They're just wearing a Tory rosette. Reform UK was created as the answer to that, so we actually get something vaguely resembling a right-wing party. Now, if you look at Farage and you look at Tice, they are essentially classic Thatcherites in the mould of Thatcher from the 80s. So that was their idea, and that was their vision for Reform UK. Let's get something broadly conservative, and we can get in, and we can do something vaguely similar to what Thatcher did in the 80s. But then you've got something else, which is the MAGA movement in America. You've got basically two trains of thought with Reform UK. You've got the people that actually want something similar to what the Donald did with the Republicans in the States. Make Britain great again, all the illegals out, remigration, focus on revitalising the Rust Belt and basically anywhere outside London and the South East, all of the United Kingdom, including Scotland and Northern Ireland, and actually putting the British people, i.e. me and you, people that were born in the UK, front and centre. And so there's two trains of thought with Reform UK, and I think Advance UK and Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain are based, which is like a consultancy. That's not going to be a political party. That's going to be more like trying to shape right-wing policy. If you look at some of the stuff they're putting out, they're looking at remigration, they're looking at defunding the BBC, they're looking at maybe the reintroduction of the death penalty, capital punishment for severe crimes like the soldier Lee Rigby or the Southport murderer, people that we know are guilty. So it wouldn't be on the statute books for something like, there's a chance they might not have done it, or basically the threshold would be higher. It would be literally red-handed, caught in the act. So they're having, and they brought out a new one today, which is they wanna make it so you can defend yourself in your own home with terminal force if needed. Whereas at the moment in the UK, well, especially in England and Wales, there's got to be a question of proportionality. Meaning, if you could run away rather than lethally kill somebody, you need to do that. Whereas the Rupert Lowe people would have it. Whereas, well, now if they broke into your house, you can use lethal force and there'll be no questions asked. So they're asking difficult questions and they're asking things like that. And I think what it does more than anything else is it forces the conversation, encourages the debate, and more importantly, it shifts the Overton window to where we need it to be, which is squarely in the right of centre politics. Nobody's talking about lefty socialism anymore. Nobody's talking about letting all the migrants in. And the Labour Party is struggling to keep up with that. So I think Rupert Lowe's thing, which is a policy platform to advocate for policies like I've just discussed, is a positive because it keeps Reform UK honest. And what will happen before the next election, my view is, Ben Habib's got a party now that's Advance UK. And basically, it'll be a receptacle. Rupert Lowe and his team of people that's going to be building policy and saying you need to adopt X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C policy. You'll throw it out to Reform UK, in my view. And if they don't bite, there's a receptacle there. So basically, the Advance UK is the threat. If Reform UK don't stay honest and actually keep with the aspirations of the grassroots. That's the way I view the whole thing. I think it's all part of a coordinated plan. I actually put a video out on my channel yesterday, and that's my stall on the matter. I think
Okay.
there's a lot of people in Reform UK, the grassroots, me being one. I'm a voter member for Reform UK. Some of the policies or some of the things that are coming out from the two higher ups, Tyson, Farage, are a bit too centrist for my liking. I'd like them to be a bit more hardline. And I think that these two things that launched over the past few days are going to keep them honest. And I think that can only be a good thing because there's a lot of people in the grassroots that are like, well, we need X, Y, and Z, and they're sort of falling on deaf ears at the moment. So that's my view. I could be proven spectacularly wrong, but I think that's the whole point of it. And if you ask Ben Habib and you ask Rupert Lowe what I'm telling you now, they'll probably deny it because you don't want to put the plan out there. You want to do all the machinations behind the scenes. You don't want to put all your cards on the table because then the jig's up.
Well, thank you for that. That's a very fulsome reply to Oksana's question about what do you think of the new party. Plenty of food for thought there, which it hadn't really occurred to me, using it as a pressure on reform to
Yeah,
move
because
that way. Yeah,
if you
yeah,
think Reform UK was created because we haven't got a Conservative Party anymore and to keep the Tories honest or to try and supplant the Tories. But even if we got Thatcherism 2.0, that might answer a few of the problems, that might sort a few of the issues, but it's not going to sort everything. Like,
no,
we've
no,
not heard anything on Reform UK about a Great Repeal Act at the moment, which is undoing Blairism. So that'd be getting rid of the Supreme Court. There'd be a question about abolishing devolution. I don't know if you'd be for that or not. Getting rid of the London Assembly, getting rid of the Irish Seaboard or the Windsor Framework, reincorporating Northern Ireland back into the heart of the United Kingdom. That's the one policy that Advance UK has got that I'm really, really pleased with because it's something that Reform UK have been kind of silent on, is the Irish question with Northern Ireland. Now, from my understanding, the Good Friday Agreement in the 1990s, there's nothing specifically stating there needs to be an open border with the Republic. However, for the sake of cohesiveness and social tensions, they decided to maintain an open border. Now, there's never really been much of a border between the Republic and the United Kingdom anyway, due to the common travel area established when the Republic left the UK in the early 20th century. But before the time of mass migration, it wasn't really an issue. I never treated Republic of Ireland people as different to me. I thought, well, they're all part of the British Isles. It's all fine. It's all. But now, it sort of tethers us together. If we got the best government in the world, mass deportations, Britain for the British, if Northern Ireland don't follow suit with that open border, the EU could import 100 million migrants to the Republic and they've got free access to the UK. So it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We touch on this in our book, volume 2 of A Big Book for the Union, and basically point out that anybody who comes across illegally across the land border between the Republic and well, yeah, if you come across the land border claiming asylum, that will be an illegal act, because you can claim asylum in the Republic of Ireland and you can stay in the Republic of Ireland. You don't need to claim asylum by coming across the land border into the United Kingdom to do it. So that would restrict a certain number of people as well. And I think you can, as far as the airports and the docks going across the Irish Sea are concerned, that can be controlled if you have the will to do it. But certainly right now, there's lots of people coming over the land border to Northern Ireland claiming asylum because it's easy for them to do so. That should simply be prohibited, and it should be deterred by the full force of the law,
Well,
i.e. prison.
I had an idea, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. Say, for example, you've already claimed asylum in a comparable country to the United Kingdom. So, say, for example, you applied for refugee status in the States or Canada, Italy, Australia, and you've been declined for whatever reason, your security risk, terrorist threat, whatever you want to say, you've got no ties to their country, whatnot. Well, that's an automatic decline from us. It was good enough. If the Americans have declined you, they've declined you for a reason. That's good enough for us. No further questions. Anybody that's come to us on a small boat that's already had a refugee claim rejected by a Western nation, whatever the reason, we don't want them. If they've refused them, we should refuse them. It's simple as. It's like all these people that are coming over from France. They probably had their asylum claim rejected in France. So that would be my policy. It'd be like, right, straight away, if they've rejected you, you're not going to get accepted here. Simple.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense. To be frank with you, it's not one that I've really given much thought to, because I'm not sure if that really happens a lot of the time. It certainly does. That there is that, what they have a word for it, asylum shopping, I think they call it.
They're basically shopping
However,
around for the best deal.
yes, and it should be prohibited. You can't just be turned down in France and then, oh, I'll try my luck in the United Kingdom. There should definitely be no. You just write in a law, like, if you've already claimed asylum in these particular these countries that we consider to be on the safe list, then you automatically, it will be an inadmissible claim, and you'll have to go back. Yes, and I totally agree. Now, in the final 5 minutes, I just want to bring your attention to the Bank of England. Let's put the banner up again. That the picture that was talking about the. There we go. We want to hear from you. Suggested notable historical figures. Historical figures. I always think that's a weird word. I always just say historic figures. Anyway, nature, architecture, landmarks, arts, culture, sport, noteworthy milestones, innovation. Have you any ideas? Let's start with historical figures.
Oliver Cromwell.
Oliver Cromwell. Let's get rid of this Bank of England thing.
Oliver Cromwell. Rightly or
I,
wrongly, he challenged the monarchy's absolute power. Rightly or wrongly, he is a historical figure. Now, I've got a local town near me called Warrington, which is about a 10-minute drive from where I am in Runcorn and Helsby. They've got a big statue of Oliver Cromwell. in
Hmm.
town centre. And I always thought it was weird when I was a child. I said, like, we're a monarchy. He got rid of the monarchy. He cut off a king's head. Why is there a big statue there? It's because
I think you were
historically
right the first time. I think you were right the first time. Yeah.
it was like, well, why? Why is there even a statue here? When the monarchy was restored, they would have probably demonised Cromwell. So why is there a
Absolutely.
statue in Warrington to him? And it's like, well, historically in Warrington, Cromwell was actually that's where he led his battalions against the crown. And my local castle, which is in Runcorn, called Holton Castle, was the Royalist stronghold. And they attacked the Royalists in Runcorn on our big hill and our castle, which is just ruins now, by the way, from Warrington. So that's why he's got the statue in Warrington. But yeah, rightly or wrongly, you may hate him, you may love him, you cannot deny he's a historical figure.
I think that's absolutely correct as far as he's a historical figure is concerned. What I would aver is that there are historic figures that are just too polarizing to appear on a banknote. And I would suggest that he is a polarizing character. You might be on his side, you might
Do,
not
do
be
you
on
mean
his side, but to actually
divisive,
put
too
somebody like that,
divisive?
too divisive, I would suggest, if I was on the Bank of England committee, I would say, well, he's certainly a man that's never appeared on a banknote, but perhaps, but is that good,
Got you thinking, haven't I?
good? It's a good call, that one, and Oliver Cromwell.
And I was thinking for nature, maybe David Bellamy.
David Bellamy. I
The
would,
reason
yeah,
is
yeah.
he sort of got shooed away from the TV because of his actual views on climate change. They weren't with the perceived orthodoxy, and because he's not in the conversation on the right side with climate change, he quietly got shooed off TV. And because of that, he should be on a Bank of England note, in my opinion.
Has he passed away or is he still with
Yeah,
us?
2019. He passed away in 2019.
Right, right. Because somebody just suggested Luke Littler, the darts player, for the £50 note. And he probably deserves it for his achievements at such a young age. But I don't think they would put people up on a banknote who are still alive. Because I was thinking about Tim Berners-Lee, who certainly created the great innovation known as the internet.
Yeah.
And that has been one of Britain's recent gifts, if you want to say that, to the world. However, the chap's still alive, thank goodness for him and his family. So I can't imagine them putting him on a banknote.
And I was looking as well, there was one where it says architect. Sorry,
Yeah,
architecture. It's not saying architects, it's saying architecture. So I
architecture,
was
yeah.
so I was thinking maybe the Church of England Anglican Cathedral in Liverpool. It's a huge building. It was completed, I think it was beginning of the 20th century. I think that
Oh,
would
yeah.
look quite striking on one of our banknotes. Or you could look at maybe one of the huge cathedrals up in Scotland, something that's really, really awe-inspiring. Or maybe the Liver buildings from Pierhead in Liverpool, that would be another shout because they are, or the Cunard building. Or if we're looking at historical events, maybe the Titanic.
There you go. The Titanic. Yeah, yeah,
Because that incorporates Ireland into it as well, because it was built in Belfast.
yes. Because I was just thinking that as well. It's if you're going to do it, well, this is where again we go back to the name of it, the Bank of England. They don't well, they do actually specify. If we bring it up again, that
It
thing.
should be called Bank of Britain.
Yes, yes. It goes. However, there are many ways. The third paragraph. However, there are many ways to represent the UK. So what that seems to be suggesting is that the Bank of named the Bank of England is actually going to use on its banknotes items from all around the UK. So that's quite good as far as we as unionists are concerned. I like that. Maybe that'll push them into understanding that maybe the name isn't quite fitting. But so it doesn't look like they're just reserving it to English events and historic figures. So I think in that case, they should have a balance between, as you say, something from Northern Ireland, maybe something from Scotland, certainly something from 2 or 3 parts of England and Liverpool, and the cathedral there, I like the idea of that. The Liver building was the first of its kind as well. It was the first one made out of a certain kind of, I need to look it up, but it was like made out of certain kind of cement or design or something like that. It was quite a ground blazer in its day. Just what have we got at the moment as far as the notes are concerned? We've got, this is the £50 note. I mean, how many people have ever had a £50 note in their pocket? But if you do have, you'll find this chap. This is Alan Turing. This is only a forecast of what is to come and only the shadow of what is going to be, it says there, which appears to be his famous quote of his. What was his job? He was
he created the machine that broke the Nazi Enigma code during World War II.
Oh, right.
He actually shortened the war by 2 years because he actually cracked their code, and a lot of his theories and whatnot were basically instrumental in they were the footprints and the first steps towards the modern computer.
Right. And there's another one there, the Charles Dickens. That's a £10 note. So you see that one quite regularly.
Well, we used to, but it's been discontinued now.
Oh, has it?
Yep, that was Series D. Sorry, Series E. That was in the 1990s when I was in high school.
Right. What do you think of that?
I like it. When I was a kid, I seen that photo and I never really knew who he was. And I was like, we'd done Dickens in school, we'd done Great Expectations, Christmas Carol, Oliver Twist. But that was like the first image, because you see a £10 note on a regular basis where you're seeing the photo of the author. Because back in the day when I was in primary school, the author's pictures weren't really in the books, especially for the children's versions of the novels. So it's people that make a difference, and yeah, that's what I think. It should be people that are actually monumental. It should be people that are essential to British history. It shouldn't be people that are there, basically the diversity hire. They're there because they are a certain skin color or a certain sexuality or a certain protected characteristic. That's the language of the Equality Act, isn't it? But no, it shouldn't be anyone like that. It should be people. It should be giants. It should be people that are actually. I mean, can you imagine Diane Abbott on the back of a tenner? I think not.
Back of an £11 note, perhaps.
But yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, all of this nonsense. I just hope they don't try to. Because I remember a few years ago when Rishi Sunak was Prime Minister, he brought out the 50p, and there's an image of Rishi Sunak when he's Prime Minister holding 50p, and it's the diversity is our strength, or diversity built Britain, and it's the Prime Minister of Indian heritage holding a 50p, trying to perpetuate the myth, the lie, that Britain has always been a nation of immigrants and Britain has always been diverse, which is not true. And we need to make sure that the myth doesn't become the reality and the reality doesn't become the myth.
True enough. Now that you mention it, of course, they are going to do that, aren't they? They're going to be, I can imagine now, say there's 10 designs, 5 of them are going to be like woke stuff, events, the arrival of the Windrush, stuff like that. I can see that happening. But
I actually done a video on that. I actually done a video on the Windrush last week when
yeah.
they were trying to say, oh, the Windrush generation built Britain. I'm like, nah, it didn't. In fact, there was actually, I don't know if you know this or not, Labour MPs at the time, if you Google it and you have a look into it, they were furious about 500 migrants from an empire country that weren't white. They were very specific. The issue was that they weren't white.
Oh, yeah.
Would they ever be able to integrate into Britain? And they were afraid of the scandal. And this was under, I think it was Clement Attlee in 1948. And they were flipping out. They were flipping out. They were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to let the ship dock? Are we going to let them come here? And like, that was 500 migrants. And they weren't illegal. They were here legally from the Caribbean. And the Labour Party was in a tiz thinking how the public are going to react to this. Now they welcome in 500 to 1,000 illegals across the channel either day. And if you've got a problem with that, you're the racist.
Yeah. That's the absolute absurdity of it.
It just shows that the Labour Party as it is now is not the Labour Party that built the NHS. It's not the same beast. It really isn't.
Yes, the Budgie Burger suggests put Morrissey on one of the notes. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Absolutely.
Maybe Billy
Absolutely.
Connolly.
Yeah. 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 Well, I don't know who I mean, I quite like, I always think as far as historic figures, the one that always jumps out at me, of course, is James VI of Great Britain.
Yeah.
He has never been on a thing. He brought the regal union together. Queen Anne brought the parliaments together.
Hmm.
So both of them are quite worthy figures, and they would start a discussion about the union. They certainly deserve to appear on British wide banknotes.
I
They
had
shouldn't.
this little tete-a-tete on Twitter today, and there's this English YouTuber. I won't mention his name. I'll protect his modesty, shall we say. He said that the UK is a political union. It's not a country. It's a political union. So I had to reply. I said, actually, you're wrong. It's a country. It was a country that was created in 1707. It's very specific. The Acts of Union very specifically and explicitly states that England and Scotland have merged into a single kingdom under the name of Great Britain.
Yes.
As such, it's literally the letter of the law. So when anybody in Scotland says Scotland as a country, well, Scotland as a country, or people down south say, well, England as a country, like, no, 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 and not in any real sense. Not in any real sense. It really isn't. The separate legal jurisdictions, maybe. We've got the same army, same parliaments, same currency, same prime minister, same monarch. Well, in any way that counts, we are a single country. When people say, "Oh, England is X, Y, and Z, Scotland is A, B, and C," you're in love with something that doesn't exist. It's not existed for hundreds of years. That's just the
Absolutely.
reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just what it is. So people, I mean, I'm in England. I've got my England flag up here. I've also got a Welsh flag as well.
Oh yes. Yes.
So I've got both. But you can celebrate each part of the UK. But the UK is the political unit, and it's
Well,
not. It's not literally just a political union. That is what
yes.
the
It's much more than that. It's much
that
more
is
than just a political union.
that is
Yeah.
the separatist mindset, and that
Yes.
is the mindset. And this is the thing as well, that a lot of people in England, like this guy, never used to think this way
And to
until
whom
you
are you
voted.
referring? You may as well just tell us who this is. This a famous person that
He's not
said?
famous. He's just a YouTuber like you or me. He's called Andy the Gabby Cabby.
Oh, I know the one you mean. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and this is what the SNP have done, and they've managed to successfully do this with a lot of English people, and they're perfectly decent, right of centre, and they're decent people, and they're good people, and you can see that in the videos. They are good people, but that's what the SNP have managed to do successfully to a degree. It's fostered the sense of grievance and sense of upset, and something that I never question personally is that I am British. But there's a lot of people that no longer see it that way.
Damien, that's where you and I and others come in, is to correct that particular view of looking at things. Now, time has been shooting on because we've been having such a great conversation. But folks, Damien Davies is at Cheshire Cat Musings. So if you're on YouTube, just search for that, or the direct link is youtube.com/at Cheshire Cat Musings, all one word. It's been great to speak to you. We've had a good chat tonight, Damien. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime you want to appear, just give us a bell and we'll schedule you in. Thanks for all your thoughts tonight.
We'll have to make this a regular occurrence, I think.
I think we will. We need to get you on. Catherine says, great chat. Everybody, let's say goodbye to Damien, and thanks for your good work, Damien. We'll see
Well,
you hopefully quite soon.
well, thank you for your time, and all the best, and I'll speak to you soon. All right.
Cheers.